I'm contemplating not using my pilot's name and just using my real name. I think it's just a bit pretentious for my first video.
I mean, not pretentious, you just look like a twat.
Wow, okay. Honest. Actually, no, I'm good with that. I always look like a twat, that's fine. Hello, my name is Benjamin, also known as Bash FPV, and today I'm going to try and make one of the smallest, lightest quads I've ever had the misfortune of building. I've been cooking up this project for a while, and today is the big day. Codename Obsidian. Doesn't matter what the codename is, just run with it, it's fine. Now, first, a couple of disclaimers. First and foremost, I am not sponsored by any of the products or companies that feature in this video. It's all based on my own opinion, experience, and research. But that being said, if any of you guys do want to sponsor me, hit a brother up. I could really do with the extra parts. Secondly, I've built, broke, and repaired many a quad in my time, and I'm a bit of a dab hand when it comes to solder and double-sided sticky tape. But I'm no Joshua Bardwell. This is not a how-to video. I'm expecting you to have some experience and working knowledge of how to build quads. And I'm also probably not going to be using exactly the right techniques. It's just what works for me. I will be imparting some of the tips and stuff that I've sort of learned over the years, but your results may vary. Finally, as I said at the top of this video, I've never built a quad this small, let alone in this frame. So I reserve the right for everything to go wrong. Whatever happens though, I will be showing you the results. Also, on that note, I have a laptop that is barely powerful to run Betaflight, so I'll be doing all this editing on my phone, and I have nothing but this GoPro and this GoPro. So yeah, again, if it looks crap, I'm trying my best with what I've got. And you're just going to have to deal. Right, let's get into it. So the frame I'm using is the Team Black Sheep Fly-Spec 2.5-inch frame. Now it is technically a 2.5-inch frame, but it can take 3-inch props. It's a collaboration between TBS and, hang on, let me get this right, the Centre for the Study of Drone at Bart College. Fancy. They do tout this as one of the best frames for the micro class, and yeah, I can see why. It seems very well thought out. It's got a lot of interesting features on it, especially with the canopy. Fun fact, during my research of this, I actually found out that this slot here, it's actually for the TBS Micro 5GS antenna, I think. It doesn't say anywhere in the literature or anywhere on the website that that's what it's for, though. Which I really wish I knew while I was compiling these components, because I would have ordered one. Bad point there for TBS. Now, it arrives obviously in one big plastic bag. If you've ordered this, you know what it is. And unfortunately, the canopy has been slightly squished. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it's kind of like a bit misshapen. Perfectly fine. I imagine when it's all screwed in onto the frame with the camera in, it kind of like straightens everything up. Don't mind so much, because Lord knows when I'm flying it, it's going to get misshapen anyway. They have also released the STL files on the TBS website if you wanted to print your own canopy that isn't misshapen. The frame itself is really good stock of carbon fibre, I think, though they've cut it cross-grain, which kind of makes it flexible, which, you know, is kind of a deal when it's this size of drone. But what I've done is fancy. I've covered it with craft vinyl stickers, basically. And this does kind of rigidify the frame somewhat. If you want to see how I've done this, I'll probably release something on my Instagram or YouTube. It's quite easy to do, though. I'm sure you can figure it out for yourself just looking at it. Included with the TBS Fly-Spec is the TBS toothpick mounting board. This is actually quite a nifty little product that TBS do, and you can buy this individually as well from the Fly-Spec. This little doodad will accept a TBS Unify Pro 32 Nano, as well as the much loved Nano RX for the Crossfire system. Yeah, really excited to use this. Just one small hiccup in true TBS fashion. There is nothing in the way of literature on this thing, other than third-party websites. I don't know what it is about TBS and just not including detailed instructions for anything, but if you've used any kind of mounting board solution before, you will kind of know what to do, like doing fillets of solder and using the pin strips to raise the board up, etc. You can do it. It's just you want some like diagram or something. The flight controller I've picked is a really interesting one. It is a GHF 411 AIO flight controller. It is a 30 amp flight controller, and as far as I can tell, It is one of the only 30 amp flight controllers I can find. I do think that Betaflight, or Beta FPV even, actually do make a 30 amp flight controller, but they do limited runs of them, so it's really hard to actually get hold of them. This is really readily available, especially on like AliExpress or Banggood, and really cheap for what it is. That being said, I have heard differing opinions, especially the 20 amp one. Apparently it's only really safe to run at 2S, and you know, again, there isn't really much literature about these things. God, who do you think they are, TBS? Moving on to motors, iFlight Zing's lineup of motors have been shaking up the FPV world for a while now, and I am a huge fanboy for them, I'm not going to lie. I especially love these iFlight Zing Nanos 1204, are they 1204? I don't know what they are. 1204 4500 kV motors. They look so good. Can you tell what I based the entire build colour scheme on? That being said, when I ordered these motors, the supplier who stocked them delivered them all great, but one of them had different hardware to the other three and was actually missing a screw. So I don't mind calling you out. Unmanned Tech, you owe me a screw. And that came out wrong. Finally, the most important part to any FPV experience, the camera. I've gone for Runcam's Nano 2 camera. I was kind of torn between this and the Foxeer Predator V4 in nano flavour, purely because the Foxeer Predator series are my standard go-to camera. I have 3 or 4 different options of them in some of my drones, although I've never used the nano version before. But when it comes to the Runcam Nano, this camera is actually 1 gram lighter and over half the price. And, okay, yeah, I had one of these knocking around, so I just thought I'd throw what I had into the build. Sue me. If it is a problem, I will go for the Runcam Predator down the line, but I think I'm going to take the weight saving and the cost saving and just using a camera I already have. That being said, I don't feel I'm compromising with the Runcam Nano. Runcam is the standard for the FPV world, and with a 700 TVL resolution with a 1/3 CMOS sensor, I think it's going to be perfectly acceptable. I happen to know that this camera is actually really good with distinguishing between the shadowy areas and the light areas, so I'm excited to get this in and, you know, see what it looks like through the goggles again. Come to think of it, the more I look into the specs of this camera, the more I'm actually thinking I probably would buy this instead of the Predator. Sorry, Foxeer. That's everything. It's time to get building, but first, I need a coffee. I've actually got to post a lot of stuff that I'm going to use. I basically just quickly grabbed everything I thought I might need, so if it looks like I have no idea what I'm doing, it's because I have no idea what I'm doing. So, the first place I'm going to start is I'm actually going to assemble that tiny toothpick mounting board for everything. I've already made a mess, so you know I'm starting a build. Again, very little information out there about how to do this, so I am going to wing it. But I do have the VTX that's going to go in it, and by the looks of things, that's what goes in first. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to sort of eye them up, see where everything goes. Blue tack. If you don't have blue tack in your kit, definitely get blue tack in your kit, because it has saved my life more times than I care to mention. Some of the things that you have to solder in this hobby are so small and you just can't keep hold of them. They're also too fragile to use stuff like crocodile clips, you know, those handy pinchers. Don't get me wrong, they have their place, but not for some of the smaller stuff that you do. Bit of blue tack, especially to hold like a TBS Nano or a small controller of any type, just helps keeping things in line as well. Cool. What I'm doing here is I'm using a flux pen from MG Chemicals. Mate of mine actually put me onto this. Silver Wolf FPV, big shout out to you. Really handy thing. Makes it so much easier to flux something up, and flux is the second most important thing to any good solder job. First most important thing for any solder job is decent quality leaded solder. TBS solder, again, fanboy over here. Really damn good. I've used a couple of different solders now, and this is probably one of the best ones I've actually found, and it's TBS branded. Win-win. The third most important thing, eye protection. In this case, glasses, because I'm blind. Now, I am not an expert solderer. I do not pretend to be. So do not think that what I'm doing is correct, because it probably isn't. It's also getting dark. Who'd have thought it'd get dark outside? This is why people film inside, isn't it? God damn it, I need a studio space to do this in.
You have a studio space, it's just a fucking mess.
Yeah. I'll work on that. So in theory, that is the Unify mounted. Yeah, not bad, I don't think. Right. So moving on, I'm going to do the RX, which is obviously the tried and trusted, world famous crossfire. Shut up! I'm on set here. Neighbour's dog's obviously heard that I'm doing a film, so it's like, oh, I want to be part of it too. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure of what the best way of doing this is, so what I'm going to do, I'll flip it over. I'm going to flux where I'm going to be doing it. And this is something I'm realising, is that it's actually really hard to talk about what you're doing while you're doing it. If I do more of these videos, I'm gonna try and get better at that. Or, you know, don't put off what you can do today tomorrow, just get better at it now. So what I'm doing is struggling, fighting with the fiddly fucks that are the pin strips. Keep your tips clean, gents. So that is the pin strip soldered to the board, so the next thing is to cautiously drop. I say drop because they are slightly out of line. Oh, there we go, actually. Never mind, not out of line. Perfectly friction fitted on there, look at that. Probably doesn't even need solder. I'm going to do that anyway. Ah, fuck off. Why is there now a helicopter here? Jesus. Awesome. Right, well that was pretty painless. So that is the VTX and RX all soldered into one big happy family. So, let's have a look-see at the FC. So front ways is that way, so it's going to be mounted up somewhere like this. Looks pretty cool. So putting the hardware on the frame. Gold side up, I thought. Looks pretty. Actually, what happens here is the smaller screws go front and back because they're capped off by the frame. The longer screws go side to side. They hold the toothpick mounting board thingy I just soldered up. So if I do that and put the in here. Awesome, so that's the hardware mounted to the frame. I'm just going to pop the soft mounts on the controller. If you've got a way of inserting these soft mounts on without making yourself feel like an idiot every time you do it, drop me a line, tell me how you do it. Because sometimes some of them pop on really easy. Other times I found myself struggling for a good 10 minutes trying to get them in. There's a massive over-exaggeration, I know, but it is a symmetrical frame, left to right and front to back, except for one small detail. Front to back, this curve here is slightly less protruding than that curve there. So I'm going to, without any other sort of options, I'm just going to take my cue from the canopy. It kind of makes sense. And I'm assuming that that way round is the way round it's supposed to go. So, very importantly, making sure the flight controller is the right way around, because God knows I would probably put that on the wrong way around, and that'll be hilarious. Okay. Set that on, drop the toothpick mounting solution. So again, front is that way supposedly, so if I have it so it's hanging over the back area that way. The reason I'm doing that is because I think there'll be enough room then for the camera on the inside, and then the actual, what do you call it, antenna for the VTX and for the RX can come out at the back. Okay, so that's that all mounted there. I guess the next logical thing to do would be to mount the motors, solder them up, and we'll solder the connections from the flight controller to everything else. So it's motor time, ladies and gentlemen. As I said before, there is a screw missing. I'm kind of winging it when it comes to screws. Pinched one out of my endless supply of spare parts. That's the best thing about being a person who crashes drones a lot, is you either end up buying so many spare parts you have an unlimited source of them, or you break so many drones and you keep them because you think one day I'm going to use all these screws for something else. And I don't know what you guys do. Do you guys cut your motor wires to length and then solder them up, or do you mount your motors, then cut your wires to length and then solder them up in place? Personally, I do it that way around, just so I know exactly that I'm using the right length of cable. And God knows if I did it the other way around, I'd fuck it up. And you'll notice I keep spinning the motors after I've screwed them on, because obviously there are holes in the bottom of the chassis to let the motor shaft go through the rear end as they protrude slightly. I'm just checking that the vinyl wrap I've added doesn't actually interfere with those tolerances. Got to remember to keep things in shot, because otherwise I won't have a video and this will all be for nothing. Right, motors are on, so we've got to solder them up, I guess. So when you order the GHF 411's AIO in the 30 amp config, it will come with a length of 16 AUG cable and an XT60 connector. Now, I have in my endless supply pigtail of XT30 flavour with 16 AUG cable, 16 gauge cable already soldered onto it. I'm using the XT30 because I have the battery I spec'd out with an XT30 connector. It's also lighter, and I see no reason why I shouldn't. If there is a reason, let me know. Right there. Decent quality snips. These are from Amazon. And way of the world now. If you can't get it anywhere, you can probably get it on Amazon. These snips are really good. You got a pack of 2. Can't remember exactly the brand. I don't know. Do people leave links in the description for tools? You've got your own tools. If you're building a drone, you know what you're doing. Why are you watching this bumbling idiot build a drone? God knows. But hey, thank you for joining us. So another tip is I don't have like a helping set of hands. I actually use these. These are Memo Holders. You get them for like notes and stuff like that. Essentially, it's a weighted brick on a little bit of upright steel there with a crocodile allocator clip at the end. They're really good to chuck in your bag if you're in the field and you need to solder something and you don't have the capacity to hold a whole bunch of helping hands. Use these. I understand I said I was going to solder up the motors, and here I am soldering this bloody thing on here. This is probably not the right thing to do to test if it works, but hey. So we'll move on to doing the actual motor cables this time, as opposed to just saying you're going to do it. What I probably should do is wire tie them down to the actual frame, run them to the place that they want to go, solder them up, call it good. I think I've got wire ties in my bag. I can't be asked going to get them, but I think I've got... Nope. I mean, the first problem there is, why don't I have wire ties in my bag? This is ridiculous. What self-respecting drone pilot doesn't have wire ties in his bag? I'm trying to be a pro here, and I'm just failing miserably. Story of my life. I've wire tied all the motor cables down towards the arm in a nice straight way, just makes it look neater. It also manages the cables a lot better, especially for when I'm soldering them up. Now I tend to solder them in order, so where's one? Do you know, I've always thought watching other people solder up motors is the most boring thing about the hobby. Counter that with, I think, soldering up motors is one of the most therapeutic things about the hobby. It's just nice to get things like neat and clean, and yes, it's monotonous. You go back and forth between tinning pads, tinning the cable, soldering it on, adding flux, not necessarily in that order. And there we have it. One soldered up, motors to frame. Right, let's see if I can scupper myself by soldering up the rest of this thing, and we'll go on from there. So cam, ground and 5 volts. So everything on this is probably easier if I show you here. So everything on this side of the toothpick mounting board is going up to your camera. So your cam, your ground and your 5 volt are all in regards to your camera. On this side of the board, this is everything that goes to the flight controller. So you've got cam, which is basically a pass-through for the other side. You've got your VTX and 5 volt, ground, 2 and 1. 2 and 1 are your UART pins, so that they need to be soldered to a UART. Exactly how, though, I am going to refer to my phone. If you were wondering, channel 2 needs to go to the TX pad, and channel 1 needs to go to an RX pad. So that's handy as hell. So, say it with me, flux and tin, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to cut the cables that come from the toothpick mounting board and join to the FC a little longer than what would be considered neat. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm not convinced that the toothpick board will stay exactly where I leave it. It's probably liable to sort of wobble around, especially in crashes, which is going to happen. So I'd rather give it that extra thing just so I don't yank something off the board and then I have to go in later and repair it. Don't get me wrong, repairing is all part of the fun of this hobby, but I don't want to make a habit of it. Well, that's helpful, thank you. I really wanted that wind. Okay. There's that side soldered up, so now it's just a case of soldering this side. So I need 5 volt, which I think is this one here. Tell you what, if after all this I do the fabled smoke stopper test and it all goes to pot, I'm gonna be pissed. I've got ground, I've got video pass through. Yeah, I'm good. Calling it. We're golden. Get it? On the Runcam Nano 2s, I've already installed it into the canopy. They come with a socketed end. Now, this is salvaged off diatone, so I'm not entirely sure if they do come with a socketed end, but I'm assuming they are. They look like they do on the websites and stuff like that. So I think it's a really good idea, especially when you have a frame this small, or when your camera is like directly mounted into the canopy to get it on and off. For servicing, it kind of makes sense to keep that socket on. So I'm just going to do that, and what I've done is I've soldered a little bit of cable there with the PH 2.0 cable on the end there. It just means if I ever need to get the canopy off, I can do it and surface it without having to like unsolder or have the thing get in the way. At this point now, I'm going to put the UFL connector on. And if you've ever been unfortunate enough to try and put your UFL connector on and it either pops off or breaks the UFL connector that's on the board, it's heartbreaking. And I don't want to be one of them guys. Worst thing is, in the future, if I do decide to order the correct antenna for the canopy, I'm going to have to risk taking that off. And on that basis alone, I'm probably not going to do it. So in theory, it goes on there. And we now screw her up. Right. With that plugged in, I'm still yet to wire tie the Mini Mortal T down. That's fine, that's like a 2-second job. Let's give it the old smoke stopper test. Right, so this is where it either lets the magic smoke out, as we've all know, or it works. Fingers crossed, mother's on speed dial. Well, they're the right sounds. There's a lot of LEDs on. And all of them are lighting up. I think we're golden. I'm going to unplug. So, I mean, basically that's it. So I'm going to throw her onto beta flight. I'm going to do some programming. Make sure the motors spin up all in the right directions. If they do, there's nothing to report. You'll see her when she's ready. Alright. If you asked me at the start of this video what I would say the end result was going to be, it would basically be me, you know, showing a really nice looking drone and flying it around the garden, etc. Well, you saw me use the smoke stopper and it worked fine, and I plugged it into Betaflight and it was working fine. I couldn't get a video signal, but you know, that's the kind of thing that happens sometimes, you know, just some troubleshooting, I'm sure I would have found it. And then this happened. The whole bloody thing caught fire. What exactly happened, I have no idea. It looks like the AIO board just caught fire. Must have been a short somewhere, but from where I don't know, because as I said, I did a smoke stopper test and it all seemed fine. If anyone does have any idea, please let me know, because I'd love to know. I am not sure if this is salvageable. I don't think this is going to be flying anytime soon. I think the camera is toast because it burnt right up the back inside the canopy. The canopy is melted and this disgusting mess. The frame is obviously not good. Maybe the motors are fine. Maybe the RX is fine. I don't know. But yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. I guess the moral of the story is who knows what the story is here. Gutted. I guess this means I have to rebuild it, right?